All right, so in the previous video, we made the player script. So now I'm going to do is make the ground script and attach those. Okay, so basically what I did is I just grab and I drop and dragged. If you didn't make the script from the previous one, you just bring it into the thing, drop it to your scripts, and then attach it to the player script. Okay. But what I need to do is make a script that's going to attach to ground. That is basically what we're going to use in order to sense whether we're touching the ground right now. So that if you look right now when I hit play, he's just always jumping because there's nothing, right now ground is not being triggered. It's not turned on as a Boolean. Right now it's on 0. So he's just going to keep jumping, which is just nuts. He's looking like Vanilla Ice. He's like, he keeps just doing that. So I'm going to make another script for this, and I could do it down here, or I can just hit add component, scripts. Oh, sorry, not that one. New scripts. And we're going to do a JavaScript, and we're just going to call it ground check. Ground check. Bam. And I'm just going to go ahead and take this ground check script, and I'm going to drop that up here, and then I'll double click on it. It's going to pop open in MonoDevelop or whatever your favorite scripting language is. So in here, I am going to put one variable, because basically what we need to do is we need to, this script has to talk to the player script, this one right here. So I need a variable that's going to hold that script so it can say, okay, you are touching the ground, and it's going to send it to this specific script, all right? So let's go over here. So it's going to be variable, and we're just going to call it player script, because that makes sense for a name. And the type is going to be player script. All right. Now, this might be some kind of weird because this is like a new type that we made. Okay. Because this is a component, just like the rest of these are components. Like this is a rigid body, this is a bus collider. Now this script is treated like a component. So it's like another type that you can attach to. Okay. It's very important. This is exactly the same name as the script itself. They put a space in there because we did, what do you call it, camel case. But this is, you can see it doesn't have a space in it. That's just the way it's showing it here, which is actually probably more confusing than helpful. But for whatever reason, that's how they decided to put that in there. Okay, so kind of like the other one, what we're going to do is we're just going to hook up that script to our thing here. So it's just going to be player script. Player script is going to be equal, just like we hooked up the rigid body component, we're going to hook up that component, I did air quotes, you couldn't see it, that component to this one. So I'm going to do game object dot, now it's not going to be just get component, okay, because that's what we've been using, because that will get the component in the current game object. We need to get the component in the object. Oh, actually, let me do this real quick. I forgot to do this. This ground check, we should have done this before. This has actually got to be parented to player, okay? That way, when the player moves around, the ground check moves too. Otherwise, it'll just be sitting there the whole time. Because it's going to be it's attached right here. There is no player script attached to this. It has to go to the parent, the one above it, in order to get that script. So what we're going to do is it's going to be game object get component in parent. All right. So it's a different method, and the component it's going to look for is going to be player, without a capital L, player script, which is this type of component. Boom, bam, bam, bam. Oops, bam. All right, got to say bam or it doesn't work. All right, so basically we're just using that to attach, and then we're going to use, we're not going to use update. We're going to use some, so these are automatically, every time you start one, you don't have to use these. Every time you start a new script, it always gives you start and update because those are the most common. You don't have to use any of those. You can make up some, you can do whatever. What we're going to do is we're going to use some other ones that are built in. We're not making these up. But they're not ones that they have by default. So if you remember, we said we had checked on is trigger for this. So with that come these other functions. So there's function, and this is going to be on trigger enter 2D. Okay, so we're going to say, so the function, so this function start fires when the script first gets fired up, right? And then update gets fired every visual frame. And then fixed update is every physics frame, okay? This one is going to fire every time something enters the object, that on trigger, okay? So that's what this one does. And then all we're going to do is we're just going to store, this is just a variable we're randomly making. on COL, and then it's going to store the collider 2D. But honestly, we're not going to use that anyway. I'm just putting it in there. Okay. And what I want it to do is it's going to, so it says if something enters it, it's going to do this. It's going to go player script, okay, which now is storing that player script into it. And we're going to go dot ground, and we're going to say that is equal to true, okay, not tour. True, not tour again. True. There we go. So basically what we're saying is, okay, inside that player script, which was a component that we stored inside of this, okay, so now it's player script. Underneath that, you know, you can have a method or you can have a property. There's that property. Remember we made that variable called ground? We're going to take that variable and we're going to set it to true if it enters it, okay? And all I'm going to do is copy and paste this, Control-C and Control-V, and we're going to say on trigger exit 2D. When it exits that, we're going to set it to false. Okay, so basically, if something enters it, goes true, and when it leaves it, it's false. There's also another thing we have to do, and I think because I haven't had to do it on a 3D trigger, but for some reason on these 2D ones, it seems like, because what you'll notice is that this will work at first, but then after a while it like slips and it'll no longer be true. So you have to, actually we'll just paste this, Control-V. We're going to do another one called on trigger stay. I think it's stay. Yeah, stay 2D. Stay 2D. We're going to say true. So basically, once it goes in and it stays in there, it's going to be true. If you don't put that in there, there's like, I don't know, it just acts a little funky. So that's good. Then I'll just hit Control-S or Command-S. Click back in here. Hopefully it doesn't get all nutty. I'm going to take my ground check. Oops. Thank you. I'm going to take ground check. I'm going to drop it onto the player. And I'm going to hit play. And then what you're going to notice is it's not working. Oh, it is working. Okay. Oh, all right. But there's some things missing. For one, when I'm hitting spacebar, nothing happens. So I need to actually adjust the player script now. So I'm going to go back to the player script, double click on that, and we're going to add some stuff to it. Okay. And it's not going to be too awful much. So basically, all I'm going to do is add my jump, which I should have just done that before. I don't know why I didn't do that before. Anyway, we'll do it on okay, so there's one key. We'll put it right here in the fixed update. So we're going to do if the following is true, and we're going to say input, if it in the input, and we get button down. Okay, so it's a little bit different than the axes. So we're just saying if this gets hit. We're not getting the value of what's being pressed. Okay, so get button down. If get button down and it's jump. All right. If you push jump, and you have to do two ands in order to do two things. Ground, so meaning that we're on the ground. Ground's true. So if they push the button for jump and they're on the ground, then you're going to make them jump. Okay, so that's going to be relatively easy. It's just going to be player rigid body dot add force, which add force. So this is a little bit different than add relative force, because add relative force will build on itself. Add force is just going to go bam. It's just going to hit it. Add force, and the force we're going to add is going to be a new vector 2. Or no, I'm sorry. It's just going to be a vector dot up. Vector 2, because it's a 2D, dot up times the jump power, right? So jump power, bam, bam, and I believe that's it. So let's Control-S, bring this puppy back. We'll hit play. Yo, 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 let's go. Come on, there we go. And yay. So you can see his jump's kind of weak. It's not real. That's pretty weak sauce. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on here on this one, and we could take our jump power, and I can make it like, let's make him really strong. He can jump like crazy. I'm going to go 500. Ready? Here we go. This is probably going to, woo! Now we're talking business. Now we can jump. Probably a little too much, but yeah, you get the idea. All right. Oh, there's another thing we need to do. So see how I'm going left and right, and he's always facing the one direction? That's another thing I need to add. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, and what were we at? 150? Let's just go 250. That's a little bit better. I need to make it so that he flips left and right. So that's actually a relatively easy piece of code. Eek. Hang on a second. Oh, man. So basically, I need to make it so that if he goes one direction, he goes one way, and he goes the other direction, he goes another way. And that's just going to be part of the update. Okay, so we're going to put this in update because this is a visual thing. All right, so I'm just going to say if we're going to say input dot get axis, because this is dealing with the horizontal. Horizontal. All right. If that is greater than negative 0.01, put a 0 in front of that too, because it's a float. Seems to have an easier time reading it. So if this is true, so if it's greater than negative 0.01, meaning it's starting to go backwards, I want to do the following. I want to do transform. Now we only have to put transform because it's automatically going to assume, because it's going to do this to the object that this is attached to. In this case, it's attached to the character. So we're going to do transform.local scale. So you can see that this is a lowercase, so this is a property of it, the local scale of this object. And we're going to set it to a new vector 3, which really should be a vector 2. Anyway, new vector 3, and we're going to do -1 because it's x, y, z. So it's going to set it to -1, and then 1 and 1. We don't want to mess with the other scales. Keep everything else at 1. And we're just going to copy and paste this, Command-C, Command-V, and we're going to say if, let's back this up a little, if blah, 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 if it's greater than, take this out, if it's greater than 0.01, we want to set it back to 1. Okay, so basically, if it's going to the left here, if it's going -1 on x that direction, then take the scale and flip him on x this way. But if he's going this direction, flip him the other way. And we'll just save that. I'm going to click in here. We'll hit play. Oh, it doesn't like it. What didn't I do right? Semicolons. Wow, that's it's pretty amateur right there. That's it's amateur hour today. All right, so let's go ahead and click on that. Let's try again. That's a pretty dumb error by me. All right. And yes, and yes. Now he goes both ways. Woohoo! Yay! Oh, I got the cool kind of jump. So I could do another thing too where I'm not allowed to move, because see, I can go this way and then start turning. But anyway, great. All right, so that is a basic platformer. I mean, obviously you can get much more fancy with it, but I just wanted to get enough that we could do within a class period. And so that looks pretty good. And that is it. So then you would just, further make the levels and all that other business, but that's good enough.